The Spanish conquest of the Aztecs was a major turning point in world history. It marked the beginning of European domination in the Americas and established Catholicism and the Spanish language as being dominant in the Western Hemisphere. But what if the Aztecs had won? What if instead of being conquered, the Aztecs routed the Spanish? In this video, we will examine what would have happened had the Aztecs defeated Spain. This is Knowledge Voyage. The Spanish conquest of the Aztecs was a major event. In just a few years, the Aztecs went from a powerful empire to a mere colony of the Spanish. As a result, the Spanish language and the Catholic religion became dominant features of life in Mexico and the rest of Latin America. But what if the Aztecs had won? What if instead of winning, the Spanish had been beaten and the Aztecs retained their empire? This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. The popular perception is that because the Spanish had guns and cavalry, they were bound to win. But this isn't the case, because guns in the 1500s were slow to reload and difficult to use, as well as being extremely heavy. As a result, the alleged advantage guns gave the Spanish is overrated. In addition, cavalry, whilst initially startling to the Aztecs, was something they quickly learned to defeat. Lastly, there were so few Spanish troops that sheer weight of numbers may have been enough for the Aztecs to defeat them. So what would an Aztec victory have meant? Let's first look at the effect of an Aztec victory on the Spanish. Had the Spanish suffered defeat in the New World, it's possible they would have given up trying to take it over. The whole point of going to the New World had been to seize gold and wealth, and the hope was that this could be done relatively easily. If the Aztecs had defeated the Spanish, they'd have had to forget about this because it obviously wouldn't have been easy. They would have instead focused on Europe, and especially the growing conflict with the Ottomans in the Mediterranean. Ottoman-sponsored slave raiders from the Barbary coast were attacking Spain's coasts, and Spain was similarly trying to capture North African ports to stop them. Without the gold of Mexico, Spain would be poorer and maybe wouldn't have had the advantage it had over the other European powers as a result. This would have meant less money for the Armada against England in 1588 and less money for the fleet that beat the Ottomans at the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. Having seen the impact of an Aztec victory on Spain, let's look at the impact it would have had on the Aztecs and by extension the rest of the Native Americans. If the Aztecs had beaten Spain, Spain would never have gone on to conquer the Inca Empire as well. The only reason the Spanish attacked the Incas was their previous experience of successful war against the Aztecs. So a victory for the Aztecs would mean not only the Aztec Empire survives, but the Inca Empire too. As a result, Europeans would not have gone on to dominate the Americas. This would have meant native languages and religions would have endured longer, instead of being displaced by European languages and faiths. It's not clear how long this could have endured, but the longer it lasted, the less deeply European culture, language and religion would have penetrated the native culture, as happened in our timeline. It is possible that at a later date, the Aztecs would have been eventually defeated by someone, possibly as the Europeans came back in later centuries with better weaponry. For example, in an alternative timeline, the British come to Mexico in later centuries and conquer it, and as a result Latin America would have been more English-speaking and Protestant than the Spanish-speaking Catholic region it became in our timeline. Of course, as with all alternative history, we can never know, but it is a fascinating thought to think what would have happened had the Aztecs emerged the victors and preserved their empire. Thanks for watching everyone, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, thank you.